Hi, I'm Felipa, and this is day 17 of 365 days of my year-long reading plan of the Bible. So today's reading starts right here, chapter 7, verse 14, the plague of water turned to blood. Essentially what happens is that God tells Moses and Aaron to essentially start wreaking havoc on Egypt, not necessarily in the way I just said it, but he basically is trying to get the Pharaoh to let the people of Israel go. And so just before this, God tells Moses, go tell Pharaoh that he needs to let you go, but I'm telling you he won't go. And that's exactly what happens. So first we start off with the plague of water turned to blood. So all the rivers get turned to blood, all the banks of water get turned to blood. And the Pharaoh still doesn't let the people of Israel go. The Lord tells Moses, go on to Pharaoh and says, let the people go. And he refuses them to go. And God says, smite all thy borders with frogs. So then that happens. Then the Pharaoh still doesn't let the people of Israel go. And next we have the plague of lice. And it's interesting, and I wrote here, I said, a lot of the times at the beginning here, it's Aaron. So the Lord tells these directions to Moses, but then says, say unto Aaron, stretch out thy rod and smite the dust of the land and carry out these directions. But later on in a couple of chapters, it's Moses that's actually lifting the rod and doing the work. So I said it's interesting because Moses is seen by the people of Egypt and the people of Israel, or the Israelites, as an extension of God, and Aaron as if his disciple, the spokesman on behalf of Moses, who is a spokesman on behalf of God. So we have the plague of lice, then we have flies that cover the land, and this whole time the Pharaoh just will not let these people go. And I even wrote down, the Pharaoh clearly is testing God's grace and patience because he keeps going back on his word to let the people of Israel go. So in a lot of these scenarios, the Pharaoh says, okay, fine, I'll let you go, and then he doesn't. He goes back on his word. So then there is a plague of boils and blisters. Then Moses warns the Pharaoh about the coming of hail, and then the plague of hail. And it's interesting, and I wrote, this is certainly one way to determine who has faith and believes in God, because after so many of these occurrences, you can believe that people would probably start turning against the Pharaoh, and if anything, believing in God, because they're the ones that are experiencing such incredible suffering because of one person's decision, which is the Pharaoh. And that's actually a really direct relation to, and a direct comparison to, what usually happens in today's world, including with the wars and strifes that we currently are experiencing in our world, where certain parties are making decisions, and unfortunately the masses of people are suffering the consequences. And so interestingly here too, the plague of hail, so God actually starts saying things like, you know what, I'm gonna put down the hail, but only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, was there no hail. And so it's interesting, so God starts sparing the people of Israel and making the people of Egypt suffer because their Pharaoh will not let the people of Israel go. And I also wrote here, perhaps with each plague and judgment by God, more and more people become of faith. This is one way to lose faith in the Pharaoh and gain faith in God and as the invisible, unseen force. Then God threatens to send locusts. And I also wrote here, God's telling Moses what to tell the Pharaoh and the people. God doesn't want things lost in translation. He's controlling the narrative. He doesn't want people coming up with their own reasons for why the plague and the punishment are happening. So every time he has a direction, he tells Moses, go in onto Pharaoh and tell him what's going to happen if he doesn't let the people of Israel go. And so then Pharaoh kind of says, okay, fine, I'll let you go. And he keeps playing this game. Then we have the plague of darkness. And this time with the plague of darkness here, usually God tells Moses, go tell Pharaoh what's going to happen next. But here, God doesn't say that. So it's funny because I said God doesn't even tell Moses to tell Pharaoh what's next in store for his defiance if he doesn't let the Israelites go. He's just going to wreak havoc without giving him a chance to do anything about it. and without even warning him in the first place. And then this is Pharaoh's kind of last message to Moses, and he says I don't want to see you again. You're not going to see my face anymore, and if you do see me, it will be, for in that day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And so finally, there's a big judgment by God, and God says, I'm going to bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, and he will let you go. And so Moses threatens Pharaoh with the death of the firstborn, with the death of every single firstborn child in the land of Egypt. And then interestingly here in this section, in chapter 12, there's directions it says the beginning of the year is changed and the Passover is instituted. And so now we have directions to the people of Israel on how to protect their home from the oblivion essentially and the smite that the Lord will deliver to the people of Egypt. So they're told to take the blood of a lamb, to mark parts of their home with it, and to stay in their home, so that when God comes through, he will recognize these as homes of people of Israel and the people who believe in God and have faith, and they will not be destroyed like all of the people of Egypt who have wronged the Lord. And so we continue with all of these instructions, and Moses is directed to tell people here in verse 25, and it shall come to pass when ye be come to the land which the Lord will give you, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep the service. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, What mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and worshipped. And then we ended on verse 29 and 30, where the firstborn of Egypt are slain. And it says, For there was not a house where there was not one dead. So tomorrow is day 18 of 365, and we start with, I believe, chapter 12. Yes, chapter 12, verse 31. And I will update you then. See you soon.